Welcome to Empire Building, the podcast where we talk about building big businesses and even bigger lives. I'm your co-host, Wendy Papazian.
I'm Sarah Reynolds.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. Today, we're going to ask a question, actually, and we're going to discuss it, which is the sky falling in the real estate market? And I'm not going to answer that for you right now because we're going to talk about it. So you have to listen to find out. But what's really fun is that all three of us have been in business quite some time. And we are paying really close attention to what's happening in the real estate market. How long have you guys been in? I've been in 18 years. How long have you been in? Sarah, you're almost the same.
Yes, 17 years this year.
Yeah. And then Wendy, you've been
I'm more of a newbie.
It.
So yeah.
You're a newbie, but you've been around it.
That's true. I mean, Jay's been with Keller Williams over 20 years, but really just for me, I got into the real estate market in 2009 and it was kind of on the way up at that point. So honestly, even though the first years were kind of lean, your first years in real estate are always kind of lean for most people.
That's true.
So,
and with such a high percentage of real estate agents actually not making it more than 3 years in the business, we actually have a huge part of our population with home buyers and home sellers that have never experienced this market. I mean, really, if you're under 40, you probably haven't experienced this market because you were in college the last time we went through this. Yeah. And if you're in real estate, the odds are, over 60% of our industry was not here in the last downturn. And I would venture to say it's probably higher than that. So, we want to dive in today to kind of share with you what we're seeing, what we're doing, what we're hearing, what to look for, so that maybe it saves you some time and stress. And also maybe it gives you some education and some guidance on how to navigate these times as our market is changing and rapidly at that. So why don't we dive on in? So when we
Wendy, were you one of the editors of Shift?
Yes, I was actually. Yeah, I have actually edited all the books. I
believe that
many iterations of the one thing. But yeah, I was actually a stay-at-home mom at that point. So when MREA came out and MREI came out, you
were heavy into those
unpaid labor force. Yeah. So you're right. So I read Shift probably in 2003, right?
Yeah.
And actually I was a real estate investor all through those
kind of
years.
What I was thinking.
Yeah. So I really got into real estate investing in about then 2000. We had our first rental property in 2004. So
yeah, we bought our first property in 2006 and our interest rate we had a first and a second. And our first was 6.375 and our second was 6.875. And we thought those are actually killer rates at that point. And they're not far from
that's
where interest rates
amazing.
are today. I know.
Well, ours
really
was
wow.
Well, ours was even higher. Our first house we bought in 2001. It was 7.25. We thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one of our flips, it was actually our second flip that we did. And that was in 2006. And we weren't able to sell it. So in Austin, 2006 was starting to go down. So we ended up keeping that house. We've still got it. I'm so glad we kept it. But yeah, a lot of repercussions from back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going on with you guys? How are your teams doing? What's the feeling out there?
We have this.
So I just got done with our one-on-one I just got done with the one-on-one with our director of sales. And so she's definitely feeling most of the heat, both from me and from the agents. And so we talked that through. And I think the big thing right now is honestly protecting our mindset, right? If you take time to scroll through social media and just listen to the news, honestly, you can get into a really bad place. And so I'm being extremely protective over who I'm talking to, over what I'm listening to, over what I'm watching, and then I'm demanding that of my leadership team as well. Just first and foremost, we're going to get into some tactical things here in a second.
Yeah.
But I just think it's so important. I told the sales team, I was training our entire sales team across all locations on Tuesday, and I said, all that's fake news. We have Empower Home News.
Yeah.
Empower Home News is we know how to navigate this. We know what to do. And we lean into hard conversations, and that's Empower Home News. And so that's the only news that we need to hear right now, not all the other news. So
I love that you're saying
that's the first thing.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting you say that. Like I was telling Wendy this because we were both at a wealth workshop this week, and for the first time in my life, I felt like if you go to your rib cage, and like right in between your rib cage, you basically have like a little triangle. I was feeling like such intense pressure, almost like your like intestines are being twisted or like wrenched. For like 7 days in a row. It was waking me up in the middle of the night. It was really painful. I couldn't go to sleep. And I was like, I told Wendy, I was like, I think this is actually what anxiety feels like. And I've never I've been, believe me, y'all know, we've been through plenty of stuff. We're in the middle of lots of stuff right now in addition to the market. But I've never had that like just pit in the stomach, gut-wrenching feeling. And the first thing that I did the next morning after that, well, I scheduled an appointment with my chiropractor to like get those nerves loosened up. But the second thing I did actually was I immediately unsubscribed from every news podcast I was listening to. I started listening to either music or mindset podcasts in the morning, in addition to empire building, of course. And I started reevaluating what our coaching relationships are looking like. So you're so spot on. I think the first thing when you're encountering a major change like this is absolutely protecting your mindset in your body, right? Because if you don't have a vessel to pour from or a mindset to protect you, then your actions actually are just going to be more destructive because you're going to be letting your subconscious rule all of that activity too. So I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I love that. Well, one of the good things for me has been, so I'm a big fan of Ryan Holiday, and he's written a lot of books. The Obstacle is the Way, and his most recent book is on discipline. I haven't read it yet, but a lot of his, if you get his daily, he sends out a daily email. And they're always very powerful. And I've sent one to my team this morning. And it's really, it's really sort of everything that we learn in the real estate industry, which is, you can only control what you can control. You can't control what happens out there. You can wake up every day and always, basically what he says is, bad things are going to happen. Like Ryan Holiday lives on a farm, and he was doing this little video, and he's like, look at this, like somebody dumped their crap on my property. It was at the end of his road. And he's like, you know what, instead of getting upset about it, you just have to understand that A, stuff happens, B, people can suck.
Yeah.
And D, the only thing that you can control is how you respond to it. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about. That's mindset. So
it is.
Yep.
You can't control what happens, but you can absolutely control your attitude and your actions. And when you're in an uncertain time, like we are in the real estate industry right now, or really in business in general, I mean, look at all these Q3 earnings reports coming out. When you're in an uncertain time, that is what you can control: your actions and your attitude. That's it.
Yep. And as leaders, I know a lot of you guys are listeners, and you are leading teams. Maybe you haven't been a leader. Certainly almost all of our listeners probably went through COVID, which is awesome. It gave you the strength to do what you're about to do in the next, 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't know, 5 years. And it's hard. Leadership is absolutely difficult, and you need to lean into those that have come before you. Right.
That's right. So I have a question for you guys. So how do you know your market is changing? Would be the first thing I would ask, because you hear in the national news things are changing, but we're all in different submarkets, right? We all have different actual realities, and that was the same last time, right? Like it started on the coast and worked its way in, but it's not doing that this time when the market's changing. And so, what numbers, metrics, leading indicators are you watching to help you guide the next part, which is the attitude and the actions? But what are you watching to help you give those leading indicators to know actually what you need to do?
So good.
Yeah. So the first thing that we're watching and looking at every single week is number of showings per listing. So how many, and we're not counting open houses. So active buyers that are pre-approved, right? Typically will hire an agent. And so showings that are by a buyer's agent. And so we're looking at that first and foremost as a leading indicator of what the market is doing. And then, of course, number of active listings is being tracked for each of our active lists, like in our listings neighborhoods. We're looking at active listings. Not under contract and sold, you don't want to look at anymore. That's old. 30, 60 days old. Active. And so you want to look at showings and actives to understand what's going on for your specific listings market.
I love that. So I think there's kind of almost two categories. One is like, what are the metrics you're looking at in the market? And then what are the metrics of your team, right? So you've got some of the things that are specific to your team, like Sarah's talking about. And then, the other thing is really looking at your financials. So I know some of you probably, you maybe don't even know how much money you've made this year. And it's really important to get a handle on that, to really understand what your burn rate is. Keith Cunningham calls it dry powder. How much money do you have? How much runway do you have? And then I would actually say the third category of numbers that you probably want to look at is your personal expenses. So you've got like what's going on in the market, what's going on in your particular market in terms of your business and your financials, and then your personal expenses. And, for those of you that are self-employed, and a lot of you have got two people in the real estate business in your family. I know Sarah's looking at the same thing. She just launched a new mortgage company, and I'm sure, I know, mortgage applications are unbelievably way down. Yeah. So that's pretty scary when you've got two people in the same business.
They're about quarter over quarter. They're down about 50% for Empower Home Mortgage, our mortgage company. And so that's the reality. I think George and I had a serious conversation last night at date night, fun date night conversation about how long we could not take any income from any of the companies to pivot to survive this, because we're in a position to be able to do that for quite some time, and just a very serious conversation as a couple of like, what are we willing to do? What are we okay doing? What are the things that we can adjust? Personally, I think that's honestly the first thing everyone should be looking at.
I love that.
Is their personal expenses, and then also as a leader, what are you willing to do to sacrifice? For me, people resources are the best ROI I've ever gotten. Meaning my team, my top leaders, my key employees will always get us the biggest return out of anything. So for me, when the market shifts, it's like, okay, am I willing to sacrifice my own income to sustain keeping those people through this time until it gets better, right? To ensure that I don't have to re-find them later, right?
That's right.
And so that's what we're looking at right now at a really high level.
Well, and I think that's something that all three of us care deeply about, is that human capital is the most precious resource that your business can have. And so, and I know even Keller Williams International just had to go through, one of the first rounds of big layoffs like that they've ever had to. And I know how much that weighed on the leadership, and even having to consider that, because the human capital at Keller Williams is so talented that even having to consider any one layoff is a huge deal. And I know all three of us in our own businesses work really, really hard to recruit, retain, and lead and motivate really amazing people. And so the thought of then having to start that over, or not being in a relationship with someone, we're willing to sacrifice a lot to get there, but that means that your personal expenses have to pare way back, that you need to reevaluate what you're looking at. Maybe your vacations look different. Maybe your spending needs to look different. Maybe your leverage at home needs to look different so that you have more time to focus on the things that you need to in the market. I will say the other two leading indicators that we watch is in our market. We've done an episode on this, but we watch number of active homes hitting the market. We also watch number of homes going under contract on a weekly basis in our market, and we watch the number of price reductions. And then in our metro area, we're also watching the unemployment rate, and we're watching affordability is the other thing that we're watching. Because, we were doing an exercise where if you look out 30 years, right, and you had 6% appreciation forever, like the $300,000 house is $750,000. Like that means our children will not be able to buy houses at that. So if we want to have affordability in the future, our market has to adjust some way.
For sure. And, Austin is one of the worst. We went up the most during this last run up. I mean, at one point, I think we were up over 51% year over year in some neighborhoods.
That's amazing.
And so we're looking at all these listings that are sitting there. And I think we jumped from about 10,000 active listings to 11,000 in about 10 days. Compared to about 3,300 earlier this year. And then at the same time, you've got 2,500 of those last week that had a price reduction.
That's right.
So it's tough. I had a conversation with a seller and I just said, take a guess at how many homes you have that are similar to yours that are for sale in a 1.5 mile radius around you. And they said, I don't know. I said, 101. And they went, yeah. Yeah. So,
that's so good though.
And if you want to be the next, and they're not, and we're not getting any showings, nobody's selling anything, nothing is selling. So it's like, do you need to be the best one? Well, when I started in 2009, the mantra was, it's a price war and a beauty contest.
That's right.
And somewhere around 2012, we stopped saying that on the listing appointments, at least in Austin.
Yeah,
and that is back. It is a price war and a beauty contest. So we're. I don't know what you guys are doing for individual listings, but we are walking every listing again.
Yeah,
looking to see what needs to be done because we only have one shot. And the listings that went on 30, 40 days ago, they're the ones that are going to suffer the most because they're so stale right now. Our market it's picking up a little bit, but it's been dead for the last month. I mean, we've sold almost nothing. And that's scary, a scary situation for a lot of our sellers who are like already moved,
Yeah. I was having a conversation today on a $400,000 house. So rates this week, as we're recording this, are now above 7 for a lot of credit scores and programs. And so the 3-month difference in just interest rate on a $400,000 house is a $600 difference in payment to a buyer. $600 in 3 months, right?
That's so much.
And so that's a car payment.
The only
that's like
way
a really nice car payment.
The only way to combat that is price, right? That's the only way to combat that. So I think, it was interesting. I did a recruiting event in Raleigh. We're expanding to Raleigh, North Carolina. And I had five Empire Building listeners show up at the recruiting event to meet me. So that was awesome. I loved that. And what they said is, we want a leader that is certain in terms of what's going on in the market. So I think for our listeners that are leading, that are building businesses, first and foremost, you need to have a game plan of certainty. So a lot of what Seychelle is talking about, a lot of what Wendy's talking about is that they are watching their market. They know what their market's doing, and then they know what needs to be said and what needs to be done to get there. So what I would love is for us to move the conversation to tactfully, what are we doing right now to lead, to guide our company, to lead our agents, to ensure that we're able to navigate this?
This may be an unpopular opinion of the first thing to do, but I'm going to say it, which is if you have a business coach that has not been through a shift before, then your business coach either needs to be talking to someone that has been through a shift like this before, or your business coach needs to change and that person needs to have been through a shift before. Because if you haven't been through it and whoever's coaching you or leading you hasn't been through it, I'm not saying abandon your team lead. I'm saying whoever's leading the team, like you need to be talking to people that have been through this before. And one of the most helpful things when we were in the last shift is to make sure we're building relationships with people that have been through uncertain times like this before. And so, number one, double check your cell phone, double check who's talking and pouring into you. Who are the people you're talking to on a regular basis that have been through this to help guide you so that you can turn around and be certain with your team that you're giving solid advice and looking at the right metrics to help it. And for me, that was Trey Williams sat down with me with coffee once a week with my P&L and a red pen. I'd never done that before. I'd never been through a shift like this before. And that was the first thing for me, was just leadership with a cup of coffee leading me on my P&L. So find your blind spots, ask people what your blind spots are, and get a mentor or a coach or a leader in that area to help you ask the right questions to get through there.
I love that, Seychelle. That's so smart. And, I'm so thankful to Trey. Never, I don't know him that well, but that guy,
he's amazing. Yeah.
Inspired so much wisdom in you, and you've been able to pass that on. So
yeah,
so
never underestimate the power of a conversation. And so a lot of you, we were talking about this before we started recording, but a lot of you, including me, are very optimistic. And optimism is a wonderful trait for an entrepreneur. In fact, you have to have a certain amount of optimism to be an entrepreneur, because it's sort of scary and unknown.
Because you have to be crazy enough.
The sky is falling. Yeah. So, and I think of the four of us, for sure, I'm the most optimistic of all of us. And yet this is a time to understand your behavior style and put your black hat on.
Yeah.
I not recently, but maybe a little bit later than these guys, really came to the conclusion that, this isn't gonna, we're not gonna get over this in the spring.
Mm-mm.
This is gonna be a multi-year event with cascading dominoes that we don't know about. And it could include, continuing the recession. We could be at war with Russia. The thing about the economy is we're not smart enough. Human beings are never smart enough to take things to their linear conclusion. And so if you are optimistic, I really encourage you to put your black hat on and say, okay, how am I going to get through 2, 3, 4, 5 years of this? And I don't want to discourage anyone, because believe me, none of you guys are leaving the business. You're going to continue to listen to this podcast, and we are going to get you through it. Okay. So those of you that are having doubts right now, we are going to get you through it. You're going to come through better, stronger leaders, and your team is going to be more incredible, and you're going to take market share. But you got to get real and get right. So.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this, and I'm seeing a lot of people post, it's not as bad as we think it is. It's a great, almost trying to change, what's actually happening.
The reality.
Instead of looking reality in the face. And I think that you got to be really, when I see that, I typically know that person didn't go through the last shift, because anyone that did knows how to adjust quickly. To speed, we want to lean into speed right now. Time is our enemy on everything. Okay. Meaning if sellers don't make an adjustment on price fast enough, time is the enemy. Okay. If you as the leader, if you as the agent, if you as the realtor don't look reality in the face right now and say that the market is different, and then also be the voice of reason to our clients saying it is different. Okay. Meaning it has adjusted, it has shifted. It is not all rainbows. This is hard. Okay. So don't be posting as if trying to change what's actually happening. Look it in the face and say that this is the reality. And that's what Wendy's saying by putting on your black hat, is do not think overly optimistic about what's going on right now, because when you do that, your actions are going to be optimistic. And that's scary, right? So your actions of spending, your actions of not doing the things. Yes.
Yeah, that's actually delusional. Yeah. But you're going to mistake it as optimistic, but you're actually just not in reality. It's delusional.
Well, and what's kind of tough is it's hard to know when to pull back, cut expenses, and then also do what you're saying, Sarah, which is to lean into speed, which is to rush forward with new marketing campaigns and take territory. And there's a real push-pull there. And I feel certain that I know my organizations are feeling it. We had a conversation yesterday with my director of operations and my director of finance, and there's a real push-pull there because my director of finance, her job is to make sure that the money's in the good place. And the director of operations, she's also in charge of making sure that we get more leads. So that's tough.
Mm-hmm. Just to be clear for our listeners, I'm talking about speed to action of your current business. I'm not actually talking about speed to adding. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm saying speed to getting a price adjustment, speed to talking to more people. Right now, you have to talk to more people to have the same amount of sales.
That's right.
Speed to adjusting your time, the way that you're time blocking to ensure that your lead generating more with your time. I'm not actually referring to speed of new marketing campaigns. You do need to be very careful with that right now.
Right. And kind of like as you guys are talking, you're giving such great information. My brain is immediately putting it into like a hierarchy, right? And it's like, number one, get real with your expenses. Number two, get your cash position in check to know what you have and how long you can last. Number three, immediately change your activity and understand that you may have to do double or triple what you're currently doing activity-wise to get the exact same results, and build a bunker, literally a big giant wall fortress around the results you need to get and the activity you need to get. And then what Wendy was saying is number four, which would be then double down on what's working well and get ahead of it by reinvesting. But don't do that until you've done steps 1, 2, and 3.
That's good saying.
And
That's
then
good.
number 4, second. And I'm laughing over here because Wendy's is over here saying she's the most optimistic, but I would also argue Wendy is one of the most direct communicators on our podcast. Like you can get straight to the heart of an issue. And I'm laughing over here because I actually think I might be the most pessimistic one, but I happen to be the nicest delivery. So sometimes I'm telling you,
you're the best
you're
filter.
like, I'm like, girl, you're heading towards like a 6-foot hole, but I'm going to tell you it really nice. And
this is why we call you Jesus.
I'm like, you're about to lose your shirt, but I'm going to tell you in a really nice way. But I probably, like, if you look at how I've handled our family situations and everything, like I look at everything with a really deep, dark black hat. I'm not like a doomsdayer, but I do look at everything with that like really black hat. And so I'm kind of like, oh, it's going to get worse before it gets better, real bad. And then I'm going to be pleasantly surprised and it's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk more about that actions and activities that need to change, right? So I did something I haven't done in years this week, which I don't know, our ISAs are now, our organization has gotten quite, it's not horizontal, it's vertical. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people in between me and our ISA department now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hierarchical. Yes. Yeah. And I was like, last week I said, I'm told my EA, block my account, take everything off my calendar. I'm going to be with the ISAs and our inside sales team who is on the phone, booking appointments, talking to buyers and sellers for at least 2 days. And so I had the opportunity to do that this week, which was actually so fun. Can I just say?
So fun.
So fun.
You looked so like at ease and comfortable. Yeah. You looked like really pumped to be there too, which is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, if I take another job, I'm the ISA in my organization. 100%. I love it.
Seriously, I had this guy calls and he's like, if you send me one more piece of dang mail, I'm going to like report you or something like that. And I said, sir, the reason I'm sending you so much mail is because I want to help you. And he was like, what? And I said, I want to help you. And I said, your house didn't sell before, and I know how to get it sold. We specialize in homes that didn't sell before. And the reason why I'm sending you so much mail is because of my heart to serve you. I said, when can I come over and help you? And he booked the appointment with me, and the ISAs were like, the ISAs were in complete shock, like, what just happened? And I'm like, you've got to turn the negative into positive.
Turn
like,
the negative.
Yes. I'm like, the reason we're mailing them so much is because we want to help them.
Of course.
And he was just like, what? And I'm like, that was so much fun. That was so much fun.
So what did you find out?
Did you drop the phone like a mic after that? No. I feel like that's when you're like, and phone drop.
I was like, this is leadership.
It does take a bit of stamina though.
It does.
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah. That's what you have to work up to. Yeah.
Well, lately my world has been in leadership development, which is like years and years of wins. It takes like multiple years to like, okay, I did a good job with this leader, right? So that little win on the phone was like, man, I needed that. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Sarah's running around the office high-fiving everyone.
Ringing her bell.
Legit. Yes, that is what happened. So what I learned is a lot of people need help. First and foremost. Like there are a lot of sellers and a lot of buyers that want to make a move, don't know how because they're not being guided correctly. And so first and foremost, I think this idea that there isn't enough business is false. There absolutely will be less home sales. And the ones that are motivated to sell, that are motivated to move, need us. And they need us to be making our calls, and they need us to be telling them we know how to help them and how to guide them and to get in front of them. So number one, I think my ISAs in particular were sort of in this mindset of like, oh, there's less people, less sales. And really, we turned it around and just said, no, there's more people that need our help is really what it is. We're more needed right now than ever before. When you are an expert and you know how to guide a seller, you are so needed right now. So needed.
I love that. And we all of us. Great. Yeah. Oh, me too. And we're all educators, like, the three of us here. And of course, Via is the queen of educating people. And we really need to lean into that now. So looking at how do we connect with people and give them real valuable information that they can use, not fluff, like Sarah's saying, not saying like, oh, it's going to get better and trick people into buying houses and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, let's get real and really getting good at finding people who are motivated. Because, I can remember when I started in 2009, the first time home buyer tax credit was in place. And so a lot of the folks I worked with was first time home buyers. And what happened with that tax credit is there was a huge spike for those years. It was like 2009, 2010, huge spike in first time home buyers. And that actually stole from those first-time home buyers in the future.
That's right.
So literally 2011, there were a lot less first-time home buyers. And that's how the world works. Like we can't create more buyers and sellers. And so these low interest rates have artificially stolen a lot of first-time home buyers. Honestly, a lot of first-time home buyers from the future. Yeah. So that's just what happened. That's why sales have gone up. And so we just have to understand that and get back to the basics. So one of the things that we did, you guys know this, is we did a little campaign for first-time home buyers. Okay. Because I know that a lot of the first-time home buyers that are here in the Austin, Texas area, they're going to need a lot of hand-holding. It's just like Sarah said, they're going to need a lot of help. It's not going to be a split decision about, oh, I'm just going to buy a house. Why not? Everybody else is doing it. They're going to require a lot of hand-holding. So we had a little competition on our team where we just said, let's go on coffee appointments. Okay. Everybody was required to go on a minimum of 2 coffee appointments in 10 days. And I said to my admin team, you can take time off. You can do whatever you need to do that. And what that did is they brought a first-time home buyer book with them. And they, during the middle of the coffee, they just said, hey, there's this new book out from Keller Williams. Who do you know that might be a good fit for it? And so we ended up getting 40 names from that. We went on 66 appointments. We got 40 first-time home buyer names. We're going to have a first-time home buyer seminar for those 40 people. And literally, I feel like we're going to move them from, stop to stop to stop to stop to stop. And then in 18 months or 2 years, when they're ready, they're going to pull the trigger.
That's right.
And it's going to be with us. Yeah.
Yep. I love that. For us, so what I'm loving that we're hearing is, right, there are a ton of different ways that you can get more business, right? You can get on the phones more, you can get face-to-face more. For us, it's actually talking to more builders. And so the first thing we've done is, all those builders that didn't want us and like we're trying to skirt around us for years, right? And don't bring your agent. Well, now all of a sudden they're inviting us all to pool parties, right? Well, I don't need their pool party, but what I would
Dallas.
like is their listing. I
know.
Are you getting invited to any pool parties, Sarah? Because I'm not.
No.
They're inviting us to all their pool parties. You're not? No? Okay. Well, Dallas up here, we're getting invited to pool parties. When they like were shooting like bow and arrows at us, like, 2 years ago, they were like, get out of here. We'll skirt around your buyer and steal them from you. And you're like, thank you, sir. Can I have some more?
For sure.
Put me on your list still. Well, now they actually need us. And so we just put 6 builder listings on the market last week. Right. And now like we're taking our professionalism and our marketing and we understand how to work with agents, how to network with them. Right. They've told all these agents to go away. Well, now they need them and they've royally like ticked a lot of the population off because they've been so mean to them for 6-8 years. And so we've actually said, let us take on the agent relationships. Let us list your listings for you. Let us deal with all the agent inquiries and we'll help sell the properties to the agents and do the open houses for the unrepresented buyer leads. And then you can work with the unrepresented buyers that walk into your shop and they don't have to deal with the agents. And we've already had 2 offers and out of the 6, we've already had 2 offers on them in a week. When they're trying to get these sold by December, well, we'll have these sold by, end of October. But it's an opportunity. So get creative and think like, where do I enjoy doing business? What am I actually willing to do? And how can I be creative in solving a need or a problem that exists out there?
That's good. That's good say. I think, and I know we need a wrap, but I think that the big thing here is when a shift occurs, you must talk to more people. Like that's the bottom line. Like if I could make it as basic can get, you have to talk to more prospects, to more buyers and sellers to navigate through. And so one of the things I learned when I was making calls was how much time our ISAs spend after they book an appointment. So I booked an appointment and I would give it to another ISA because I wasn't booking it. I was booking it to learn and to be with them. And so I would give it to the other ISA and I gave it to one of our new ISAs and I said, okay, I'll stand here while you do the next steps after the appointment's booked. And it took 30 minutes. And I looked at my director of ISA inside sales and I said, okay, we got to immediately hire VAs that will do all of these items, these 30 minutes of items, because we can't navigate this shift if our ISAs aren't talking to more people. They have to talk to more people. And so I think that everyone that's listening needs to know to do the same amount of sales or to grow, you must talk to more people, get in front of more people to have the same amount of sales. So
I love that. That's so smart. And part of the problem is we've all kind of gotten lazy about doing that these last couple of years for 2 reasons. One, we've just been answering the phone, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. And the second reason is because of COVID. So you guys need to get out and get on the phone, get belly to belly with people.
Yep.
Open up your Sphere database and just start doing what you do best, which is talking and meeting with people and kind of get out of this COVID mindset, which is we're going to stay in our house all day. Because I can tell you the best way to create sales is to change the energy. So whatever that looks like on your team, you got to change the energy. You got to get people out talking to people. Yeah. Yep.
My favorite line in closing is the market doesn't determine if we are successful, it determines how we are successful.
Yes.
And so have your mindset that you will be successful, but the how must change. The how must change. So in closing, look at how you are doing business. Take what we shared on this podcast, a lot of gold nuggets. I took multiple notes from Wendy and Say, and take those and change the how. You will be successful as long as you change the how. So get out there, have a big business, but don't forget in the midst of this to have a big life, which means you got to take some time off in the midst of this too. I'm leaning it on our sales team saying, make sure you have at least one day off to make sure that your mindset is in the right place to where you can pour into your clients. So big business and at the same time, have a big life. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Bye guys.
Bye, guys.